everyone, and welcome to today's video. We are going to be making this really pretty and probably one of my favorite cards I've ever made because of the technique that we use. It's one of my favorite techniques. But this is just a really nice card to give to a friend to tell them that you're thinking of them, wish them good luck on something, or kind of like a congratulations. I love this card. I've made this card probably 5 or 6 times because it's so versatile. You can use it for so many different things, and it's super easy. So for today, we are going to be using not a ton of supplies. I know that my last card, we did have to use quite a few different inks. It was one stamp pad, but we had different inks and a few different pieces of, a few different colors of cardstock. So this time it's going to be very, I don't want to say minimalistic, but you don't need as many supplies. So this is a really nice beginner's card. If you're just starting out and just want to purchase a few items, this is a really good card to start with. So for the stamp set, we're going to be using the Garden and Bloom stamp set, and this is part of the annual catalog. Whether this stamp set will be continuing over when our new catalog is released here in a few months or not, we still are not sure, but I would grab this just in case because this is such a versatile stamp set. I cannot tell you how many times I have used this, not even for this card alone, but I have used this so many times because it's just one of those stamp sets that you can use it for anything, really. So I love this one. So we're going to be using that. For our color, for our ink, we're going to be using Watermelon Wonder, and this is the only ink pad. Oh no, I lied. We're going to be using Versamark too. So Watermelon Wonder and Versamark, because we are going to be doing some embossing. I was going to say embellishing, but that's not the word I wanted. For embossing, we're going to be using black embossing powder. We're also going to be using the Banners Framelits dies. And for our cardstock, we're going to be using a piece of 8.5 by 5.5 Watermelon Wonder for our card base. And for our card layer, I'm actually using a different size, and it's the same size that we used for yesterday's card with the Sheltering Tree set. It's the same size that we used there. It's just a different size that you can use when, I like to use it when I'm only doing like one layer on top of a card base. So it's a 4 by 5. It's really simple. And then you just need a scratch of Whisper White. I am not sure the dimensions of this, and I don't know what happened to my ruler. It disappeared. But if you have the banners set, I'll show you which one that we're going to be using, and then you just need a scratch of Whisper White that's going to be big enough for that piece. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to start off, we're going to start by creating the background of our card, and it's really, I like this technique because you're really making your own patterned paper, and I think that's why I like it so much, because it's so versatile. You can do so many different things. So I'm going to be using the big flower, the butterfly, and then the small kind of roundish flower from the set to make our background piece. So to start, all we're going to do is take our Watermelon Wonder and stamp all over this piece. And there's the genius part of this, and I'm actually going to grab a scratch piece of paper to stamp on top of. The genius of this is that you really can't mess it up. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just whatever works for you. It's however you want to do it, whatever you feel right, whatever looks right to you. That's really how you do it. The only tip that I have that I have learned, and that's helped me achieve the look that I like, is to start off with your largest stamp, or the stamp that you want to be your focal piece, and really stamp that as many times as you really want and as many times as that looks good to you. And then go in and use your smaller ones and kind of fill in the areas that just need a little something. So that's what I'm going to start by. I'm going to start off with the big flower. And the other nice part of this stamp set in particular for this is that, so you have a multi-step stamping, obviously, because we have this and then we have the outline. But with the multi-step stamping, it's one of those stamps that's really easy to line up once you kind of get the hang of it. It's not one like the, what is it? It's the What I Love. Is that what it's called? I can't see. Yeah, What I Love. Sorry, I was trying to look over to the left where all of my stamp sets are lined up, and I was trying to see the name of it. It's the What I Love set. And I love that set, but I always have a really hard time lining up the flowers in that set for the multi-step stamping. I have a really hard time with it. This one, it's super easy. So you can say that I wanted this larger flower to really be my focal piece. So I stamped that as many times as I felt like I wanted it. And now I'm going to go in with the butterfly and just kind of fill in some of those areas that don't really have anything going on. And maybe one up here. And I think that's good for the butterfly. I'm just cleaning those off in between. And then I'm going to take this little tiny flower and just fill in the other areas that are kind of blank. Maybe another one down there. One up there. And I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just cleaning these off because I am going to use these same blocks. So I'm actually going to put the Watermelon Wonder away. We don't need it anymore. That's the only stamping that we're doing with that color. So I'm going to now put away all of these. And just like that. And we're going to grab the outline stamps. And one thing that I want to do really fast is wipe off my block so we don't transfer any of that Watermelon Wonder onto our little card. Okay. Now we're going to take the outlines and put those on just like this. It feels so good getting back into making cards. I took a little break, a little hiatus. I mentioned it in my video on Monday a little bit. I talked about it a little bit more. But it was just really, really nice to kind of get back into the groove of things. We just have a lot of wedding stuff going on, and that kind of got in the way of everything. So, I don't know. But, yeah. Anyways, okay. So, one thing that I will mention, and one thing that I do to kind of help me, is on here, so I have all of our outline stamps lined up. Now, the butterfly is pretty self-explanatory. That one's not hard to look at. This little guy, the thing with this one is that you can't really mess it up. Even if you stamp it wrong, it's still going to look good because it's just kind of a circle. So this one I'm not super concerned about, but this flower I am kind of concerned about because it's been a little while since I've stamped this card. So the one thing that I want to make sure when I'm doing this is the area. So I just want to kind of line everything up and see. So here, let me flip it this way because this is how I'm actually going to be stamping. So this piece of the flower, the one that has the line through it, that's the one to the right of the arrow. So I just always, when I'm doing multi-step stamping, like I said, this one's super easy to do once you do it for a couple of times, get the hang of it, but I want to make sure that I understand what I'm doing and what I'm stamping. So I just wanted to throw that out there really fast. Now with this, because we're using Versamark, we want to you want to do it kind of in sections, but at the same time not in sections, if that makes any sense. You just kind of want to do it, but you also don't want to take too much time to where the Versamark ink isn't super sticky anymore. And you can't actually put all of your embossing powder on. So that's the only thing that I would say to be mindful of when you stamp this one. That. So the way that I do it is I do all of one of the images. I do one image at a time basically. So I did my big flower, and now I'm just putting the embossing powder on. And I just find that's what works for me, and that's what helps me get the best result. If you find that something else works better for you, that you can do all of them, or maybe you have to do one flower and then heat it and then go back. Whatever is easiest and whatever works best for you. Really do what you're comfortable doing. So you want to be mindful when you turn this over and you start to tap, tap, tap down on it. Because I've done it where I've accidentally stuck my finger in the embossing. And there's a couple areas. You can use your embossing buddy. This would probably be a good one to use your embossing buddy on. There's a couple areas where I don't want embossing powder. So I'm just taking a paintbrush and whisking those away. And mainly I'm concerned if it's in the white area. If it's on one of the other images, I'm not super concerned about it. Ooh, I did not mean to do that. Okay, perfect. So, actually move that over. Set this off to the side just for a second. And I'm going to put all of this in here. I'm shaking off my scratch piece of paper off to the side because this does get kind of messy. Also grabbing a baby wipe to kind of clean up some of that embossing powder that got spilt on my desk. And now I need a piece of paper towel to dry it all up. Get that. Okay. Whew, I feel better now. So now, as usual, we're going to take our heat tool, heat it up, and emboss. So because my images are kind of all across the area, I'm going to be more focused on one flower at a time and heating that up, and then moving to another flower and heating that up. And I think we're good. I just want to look one more time. Okay, perfect. So I am, oh, sorry, I was trying to put my heat tool back and it wouldn't. Again, my acrylic always pops up. I'm going to repeat that process for the butterfly and the small flower. I'm probably going to do those both at the same time, but I'm going to speed it up for you guys just so that this video isn't forever long. But it's the exact same process. You're just going to stamp down the outline in Versamark, put your embossing powder over, and then heat set it. So I'm going to do that, and then I will be right back. Okay, so now we are done with our little embossing piece, and it's not perfect. You can be much more meticulous in where the embossing powder goes and make sure that you don't get it anywhere else. I like having little specks of black inside the flowers and the designs. I think it gives it a little bit something extra. It gives it a little bit more interest and a little bit more texture. So I like that, but of course, it's not hard to get it where the embossing powder doesn't go anywhere but there. The one thing that I would recommend if you want that nice, crisp, clean, 100% perfect look is to use the embossing buddy. That really helps that. But I'm perfectly happy with this. I like the way that it turned out. So I'm going to set this off to the side for just a second. And ooh, my desk is a mess. Anyways, I am going to, we have one other piece that we're going to end up needing to emboss. But first, I want to cut out my banner. I need to find my scratch. There it is. So, I'm going to be using the banner's framelits, and we're going to be using the third largest one. I'm just going to set those back in there. I'm going to pull this over. I'm going to grab my big shot. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this, but it's pretty simple. If you've ever used the big shot before, it's the same thing that you always do. I'm just sandwiching the framelit and the paper in between the two sandwich plates, and I have it on plate number 2. And let me pull this and then slide this. I'm trying to do all of this without knocking my tripod, because I did that in one of my videos and then I can't remember, something happened and it was all like wonky or whatever. I don't know. But I don't have tons of room right here because my tripod's right in the middle of everything. So we have our little banner here. That's all we need. So I'm going to take this and scooch it off to the side. And, oops. I got some stuff on here somehow. But we're going to be stamping our sentiment on here. And for this, I do want it to be pretty clean. So I am going to grab my little embossing buddy and just wipe him along there. I'm having such a hard time today grabbing these pieces. I keep using, this is a Cricut tool actually, but it works really well when you're trying to emboss stuff. It really, really helps. So I'm going to grab my scratch piece of paper one more time. Oops. Set this down on there. I'm going to grab our Versamark again, and let me clean one of these blocks, or one of these stamps so we can use a block. Da, da, da. I said that too early. Okay, so we have our block. Sorry, I keep like throwing stuff around. Where did, oh, there's the stamps. I was like, what happened to the stamps? We're going to use this sentiment from the stamp set that says, friends are kind to each other's hopes and cherish each other's dreams. I love that sentiment. So we just have it on our block. I'm going to get my stamp all inked up in Versamark and just try to center it on our little banner. It doesn't have to be perfect. People always say, don't you hate it when your cards don't turn out perfectly? I'm like, no, actually I don't. I like when my cards look like they were handmade. That's the beauty of it. When something looks like you actually made it, like that's the whole point. So see how there's literally nothing, none of the embossing powder went astray? It's because we used our embossing buddy, and that really helps. I don't know why I just closed this, because I need it still. But yeah, so if you're doing your background and you really want that crisp, clean look and you just can't stand having anything go astray, I would definitely recommend using that embossing buddy, because that really helps get rid of all the static, and it lays a nice layer so that the embossing powder only sticks where you want it to. So we're just going to heat set this. That's a little hot. I just got a little boo-boo on there, but let me... Perfect. I don't know, throwing stuff around. I got a little smudge on here. That's really unfortunate. But again, it's handmade, guys. It cannot be 100% perfect. So, anyways, now we're going to start assembling everything. So I'm going to go ahead and take some dimensionals. And I'm probably going to do, let's see, I'm going to do 5. So I'm going to do 2 over there, one on each of the little tails and then one right in the center. And I'm going to put this on the left-hand side down a little bit towards the bottom. Then we're going to go ahead and take our piece of Watermelon Wonder and fold that in half, just like that. And I'm going to pop this up as well. So because it is embossed, I'm going to use a ton of dimensionals to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. I know I've talked about this a ton of times, but it's really true. You want to make sure that you're not, that your card doesn't sag. And when you do embossing, heat embossing, dry embossing, anytime you do any kind of embossing or you have texture or you have a lot of stuff on your cards, it can tend to warp. So dimensionals are great because they're tiny and they can fit into a bunch of different places and they have tons of different uses. But they can also have a downfall sometimes if you don't use enough of them where they can't support your card. This little tiny thing can't support an entire card on its own. It needs some support. So go crazy with your dimensionals. So they're super cheap. You get like 300 of them for like $4 or something. They're not expensive at all. You can, I mean, look, I used this one sheet to make tons of cards and I just used how many on the back of that card. And I still have a bunch, and that's only one sheet. You get 3 of these in a pack. So use your dimensionals wisely. That's what I would say. Now we're just going to line this up on our card base, and that's it. That is our card for today, guys. So I hope you enjoy. Another thing that I wanted to mention really fast is with this card, you can use another color when you're doing the outside. You can obviously change the color. You don't have to do Watermelon Wonder. But I'm even talking for the embossing. I did this exact same card with Watermelon Wonder and used gold to do the embossing, and it's so pretty. So you can use any color. You don't have to use black. You could do, I think this would be really, really pretty if you did like a black cardstock and used craft to do the inside, and then did the outside in like a gold or silver, or if you used another brand of embossing powder and did like a pink or something, I think it would be super pretty. So use this, but put your own twist on it. Think outside the box and mix it up and do whatever you want. It's a super simple card. You just can take it and turn it into so many different things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you next time. Bye!